Hey guys, it's Amy with Above and I'm back with you with this week's episode of Have You Got a Minute? All the questions we get asked when someone taps us on the shoulder as HR leaders or coaches and says, have you got a minute to chat? And this week's question is, how can I possibly get everything done? And this question is really about, am I supposed to get everything done? And I'm just going to be upfront and say, maybe you're supposed to, but the reality is you can't. And pretty much nobody else can anymore either. Maybe this was different back in the day when there were larger teams and things supposedly moved slower. We're in an age of an acceleration. But today, with the acceleration of everything, the dynamism of markets, priorities shifting constantly, you just can't be expected to get everything done. And once you realize that that doesn't make you bad at your job, incompetent, doesn't mean you're at risk for where you might be able to go in your future career, it's very freeing. And what happens then is you've just got to figure out how to manage it. So if you believe me and you're willing to accept that you don't have to get everything done, that even if there was a day in which you were able to check off everything in your to-do list and that day has passed you by, the goal for your career should not be to get back to a place where you can check off all the things on the list. But the key is to figure out how to manage that list and know what to spend your time on, why is that important, and then how to get rid of some of the things that you shouldn't be spending your time on because maybe there's a better use for your time, a more valuable, more enjoyable use for your time. So the first thing I always suggest is to take a look at your own productivity. And when we do have a hard look at this, sometimes we find that we spent an hour looking at YouTube videos. Maybe we were chatting a lot with our colleagues because we're lucky enough to be at a place where we genuinely like the people that we work with. Maybe we went for a midday workout that really turned into a much longer one than we intended. There's nothing inherently wrong with that stuff. But if you're not paying attention to it and you get to the end of the day and you wonder where is all the time gone, it's good to just start keeping track and paying more attention to how you're spending your time, where you're spending your time. The second part of productivity is, do you have a system? It doesn't really matter what that system is, and depending on who you are, your personality, your working style, you're going to want a different type of system. But having a way that you approach taking information, sorting tasks, etc., is super useful. I have found getting things done as a methodology to not be a perfect fit for me, but pretty darn close. I will link to that down below if anyone wants to check it out. So once you've got a productivity system in place, the next step is to go after really getting clear on your priorities. And I think these are pretty obvious initially to always look at, what are the business objectives, what are your personal objectives, but I think there are a couple other layers as things are shifting that are important to take a look at. The first one is, who are the important players for reasons of power or authority in the organization that you need them to do something for you, or that you might need them to do something for you in the future, / you just want to build social currency with that person. You might want to consider including those tasks or projects in your priority list, or finding ways to manage the conversation of why you might not be delivering things to those people, because that social currency is going to make it much more easier to deliver your work in the future. The other thing is, what are the things that you absolutely love doing that you lose yourself in flow with? And then what are the things that you actually struggle with but really want to learn more about? And I always recommend making time in your calendar to spend time on both of those, because the first one gives you a lot of enjoyment and sense of achievement, and the second one is going to help you stay current, relevant, keep building your skills as the world continues to change and your career evolves. So between all of that stuff, there's probably a bucket of things that you have to get done for the most part, or have to get done in general, but you don't want to do them. They kind of make you want to just scratch your eyeballs out. I think a classic example of this is often expense reports for people who travel a lot or take clients out on business. there's nothing worse than knowing that you've got to process a bunch of expenses. You've saved like the day per month you're going to do it, and then you've realized that you're missing several receipts and you have to get on the phone with Bulgaria, and suddenly it's taking you a lot more time than you ever expected. So these types of tasks, we tell ourselves that we need to do them, but I'm going to suggest today that maybe you don't. And Misty has done an amazing job of using virtual assistants both within organizations, getting them for the teams that have worked for her, and also for herself. And what I typically get in response when I suggest this to people is a pushback that, my company will never pay for that. It's really expensive. And I would just challenge you to consider paying for it for yourself as a sign that you value your time enough to either allow you to spend it on work that you truly love doing, or on leisure and fun and things that enrich your life. Time Etc., which is one example of a virtual assistant service I will list below. It costs $250 for 10 hours per month. Is it super inexpensive? Probably not. Are there a lot of other things that you probably spend $250 a month on? I'm not going to necessarily make any assumptions about what those are, but I'm pretty sure that there are things that you are spending money on that may not have as much value as 10 hours freed up when someone does your expenses, perhaps makes all your personal appointments, plans personal travel, puts together PowerPoint decks that you need to make for work, or at least the initial versions of them. I even know someone who hired a virtual assistant to plan their friend's bachelor party or stag do. And it's amazing what happens when stuff you've been dreading doing is suddenly done by someone else. So outsourcing, big idea, I think. And then another great idea that I got from someone in a legal team once is the concept of the F it bucket. And this is all about mental energy. So we all have things that somebody has told us we should think about, research, have a look at, put a strategic plan together for, blah, blah, blah. And we don't really want to. We file it away in the pile of things we're going to do someday when we have time. And then time goes on, a month, 2 months, 6 months, we never do it. No one ever asks us about it. But it still sits there in some visible way, some sort of metaphorical pressure way. And I encourage you to take all those things, set yourself a time limit, and if no one has asked you about it and you don't want to do it, you don't think it's important, throw it in the bucket and just let it go. Never touch it again. So those are my tips and tricks for you today, both in answer to the question of, how am I supposed to get all of this done? Probably you aren't going to, but that's totally okay. And then a few things that might help you get a little bit further along than you feel like you're getting today. If you've got any questions or comments, please pop them down below. Or as always, you can follow us on the socials at Facebook, Insta, YouTube, and of course on our website, aboveand.com. Thank you. Have an awesome day.